Following the publication of the recent Marian document, reactions have been heated, sparking indignation and dismay throughout the Catholic world. Among the many voices raised, two in particular broke the silence with clarity and courage, offering a deeper look at the direction the Vatican is taking. And it is from these voices that a disturbing picture emerges, capable of shaking the certainties of those who thought that nothing in faith could truly change. Stay with us until the end. Following the publication of the document Mater Fidelis, released last week by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, the debate on the place of the Virgin Mary in the Catholic Church has suddenly heated up. What, until a few months ago, seemed like a theological dispute confined to academic circles, has now become a major ecclesial issue, striking a deep chord in the conscience of the faithful. The document, presented as a pastoral update on Marian language, has in fact scaled down or called into question some titles historically rooted in Catholic tradition, including those of co-redemptrix and mediatrix of all graces. A few days after its publication, authoritative voices from the ecclesiastical and theological world expressed surprise, dismay, and in some cases, open concern. Among these, two figures stand out who represent different yet convergent sensibilities in the defense of Marian doctrine: the historian Massimo Viglione, professor at the San Domenico University Institute in Rome, and the Mariologist Mark Miravalle, president of the International Marian Association. In the heated climate, following the publication of Matar Fidelis, historian Massimo Viglione's voice was one of the clearest and most articulate in denouncing what he calls a process of progressive emptying of the Catholic faith. On the portal aldomariavalle.it, Viglione painted a stark but lucid picture. Post-conciliar Catholicism, in his opinion, is undergoing a systematic purge of the three pillars on which tradition is founded. In increasing order of gravity, the Virgin Mary, the Eucharist, and the Holy Trinity. According to the Roman historian, this dynamic is not accidental, but responds to a precise ecumenical and globalist direction pursued by the contemporary Vatican hierarchy. The goal, he says, would be to build a sort of universal, egalitarian, and dogma-free religion, compatible with secular thought and the other great monotheistic faiths. For this to happen, he writes, it is first necessary to eliminate the doctrinal obstacles that make Catholicism irreducible to relativistic dialogue. The first and most visible of these obstacles would be Mary, the Mother of God, a pivotal figure of Christian anthropology and popular spirituality. Viglione underlines how the Virgin is today reinterpreted according to symbolic schemes alien to faith, almost as if she were a pagan female deity. The most explicit reference is to the controversial episode of Pachamama, the Andean deity enthroned in the Vatican gardens during the Synod for the Amazon. That episode, defined by the historian as scandalous and unforgivable, represents for him the tangible sign of a theological and cultural betrayal by those within the Church who had lost the sense of transcendence. But the attack on the figure of Mary, observes Viglione, would only be the beginning. Behind the revision of Marian language, one could glimpse a desire to also rewrite the meaning of the Eucharist and the Trinity, the other two pillars of faith. When the mother is reduced to an ecological symbol or a universal icon of motherhood, he warns, nothing will prevent us from reinterpreting the Son and the mystery of God himself. In his analysis, Viglione links this transformation to the spiritual project he defines as the religion of Abu Dhabi, an allusion to the 2019 interreligious meeting and the document on human fraternity, signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar. For the historian, that vision would mark the birth of a horizontal, inclusive theology, which, however, would end up dissolving the distinction between truth and opinion. His conclusion is prophetic in tone. The war against Mary is not an isolated episode, but a sign of what will happen to the central mysteries of faith when the logic of the world has definitively replaced that of the gospel. In this reading, Matar Fidelis appears not as an accidental document, but as the most recent symptom of a long spiritual illness that threatens the very soul of the Church. Less than 24 hours after the publication of the document Mater Populi Fidelis, the American Mariologist Mark Miravalle reacted with a note of firm criticism. On the Mother of All People's website, the Professor Emeritus of the Franciscan University of Steubenville called the text signed by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez a document built on selective citations, which neglects magisterial continuity and risks creating confusion among the faithful. The central point of his challenge concerns the rejection of the title of co-redemptrix, which Fernandez judges to be inappropriate. For Miravalle, this position is historically and theologically untenable. If a title is inappropriate only because it requires explanation, then we should say the same of Immaculate Conception, Mother of God, and even transubstantiation. The theologian recalls that numerous pontiffs, including Pius V and John Paul II, spoke openly about it, and that omitting such references means breaking the golden thread of tradition. On the subject of the mediatrix of all graces, Miravalle expresses dismay at the almost total absence of the title in the document. Remember that this doctrine has been confirmed for 4 centuries and taken up again, more recently, by Pope Leo XIV, who in August 2025 reaffirmed its theological value. This omission, he states, is not accidental, but symptomatic of an orientation that prefers silence to clarification, simplification to fidelity. The Mariologist also highlights the disparity in sources. Matar Fidelis cites extemporaneous speeches by Pope Francis, but ignores official texts by John Paul II, the homilies of Pius V, and even the evolution of the thought of Joseph Ratzinger, who, as Pope Benedict XVI, never rejected Marian titles. Such an approach, he writes, does not respect historical truth, nor the logic of the magisterium, which is not built on impressions, but on continuity. Finally, Miravalle invokes the role of the Christian people in ecclesial discernment. Remember that devotion to the Virgin, throughout the history of the Church, has always come from the faithful and not from the curia. He concludes by warning that the question of Marian titles is not a marginal detail, but a dividing line. Defending Mary means defending the very coherence of the Catholic faith. What looms on the horizon is not just a change of language, but a change of faith. Under the guise of dialogue and inclusion, theology seems to lose the courage to name the mystery, to say supernatural without being ashamed. The truths that once burned on the altars are now exposed in the laboratories of commissions, where the light of grace gives way to the cold light of revision. Every dogma toned down, every title erased, Every word rewritten marks a step towards a Christianity that no longer converts, but adapts. And while Mary's name is being corrected, what is really being corrected is the very idea of God. If this direction does not change, the day will come when faith will not be denied. It will simply be forgotten, like a language no one speaks anymore. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.